I'll just say that Tamale clearly was destined to be the place, for the launch. Even though initially it looked as though it may either be the central region or maybe the Ashanti region, at a certain point it was just obvious that it has to be Tamale. So let me just say that let's say Tamale won the battle, even though it was not a very easy battle, and he won it because it was just clear that we needed to be in a place where the heartbeat of our party is strong. When you want to launch campaigns of this nature, you need to go to places where you feel your spirit can get far more energy, because you need that energy to start in order to be able to finish very well. So naturally, Tamale fell very rightly, and some of us were pretty much, I would say, instrumental in making it happen, because it's home. And normally when you want to go on very important journeys, Tamale represent the place. I remember 2008 as part of my own setting the record straight, when we did a lot of what we did in Accra. We came to Tamale, and I still remember vividly the spirits that Tamale represented when we came here and did setting the record straight, and how that became even critical moving from Tamale to the rest of the country. So I'm sure that is actually the spirit behind our coming to Tamale, to do this very important program, which is launching what I consider to be a destiny-changing campaign. Because the campaign ahead of us is not just a normal campaign at all. It's a campaign that is at the very heart of the should I call it the destiny of our country.
Really?
Yeah.
That's how you see it.
Yeah, that's how I see it. It's a destiny-changing campaign. Yeah, because this country's destiny is on the line.
The northern region has always been present in every elections. The NDC has actually done a lot more in terms of their numbers, but in subsequent years or in subsequent elections, we've seen a dwindling of the numbers for the National Democratic Congress. Was that part of the reason you took that decision, that you needed an energy booster? For that matter, let's do it in the northern region to lift the tempo.
Yeah, we believe that it's not just the northern region. Generally, the plague that NPP represents, and actually that's a proper word for the political party, it is a plague that literally is like a disease that eats a country up. Okay, it's like decay that totally destroys a country. The plague that they represent, they've been able to literally making roads in many places. They made some roads in the Volta region, made some roads in the 5 northern region, made roads in different parts of the country. And we need to appreciate that, yes, that truly is what it is. And when you have critical battles of this nature, you want to go back to the place that is supposed to be your base. Because remember, when we started this journey in 1992, Volta region and the northern region have always been, let's say, the right hand and the left hand of this party. It is true that over the last few years, northern region has lost a bit of that potency. But we believe that the power is still there.
Ever since you took office,
and that power must be revived again.
Ever since you took office, have you run a postmortem of why the numbers are dwindling?
Let's just say that we've done a postmortem of not just for northern region, but across the country. And we do appreciate that part of the reason has been because our opponents maybe use some strategies that kind of inure to their benefits.
Strategies, no more lies.
It's all part of it. So our job is to make sure we work hard, to overcome some of the strategies. But also remember, charity always begins at home. We believe that a lot of the problem also has been a bit of a self-inflicted problem. And that is actually the call we are making to our comrades in the northern region. Place the party always as number one, and place the individual as number two. This party was a party founded on sacrifice. A party that was founded by an individual who placed his country above himself. An individual who was prepared to die, if need be, for his nation. Now, so what the northern region needs in order to be able to come back to the place it ought to be as far as the NDC is concerned, is to let that spirit of sacrifice be the number one ringtone for the party. The individual must be second. The party must be number one. And once everyone in the northern region, I'm talking about the NDC, can appreciate where we are coming from, the very spirit of our party, which is the spirit of sacrifice. Not one that places myself ahead of the party, but one that places the party ahead of myself. Trust me, we would have the strength to fight again. And once this party can find that spirit of sacrifice and readiness to go forward, NPP would not be our problem. Yeah.
When you were actually elected the party secretary, it appears it boosted a lot of young people's confidence that the party is on its path back to power. But it appears you've been in the quiet for a long time. Is it that you've been working underground or behind the scenes, and you are not seen like you used to be? I mean, people used to see you. What have you been doing? Sleeping on the job?
Thank you very much. You must appreciate that different rules require different approaches. Yeah, okay, it's no more that I used to be in charge of the communication, therefore you see me in every radio station and TV station and speaking all the time. This time you are in charge of the totality of the party's administration. And the biggest battle ahead of us in this particular election is finding ways to stop the NPP's stealing, the NPP's electioneering shenanigans that would work against us. And some of that work has to be work that has to be much more strategy than much more noise. So in 2008 it was critical for us to put communication at the forefront of of what we did, because we were fighting after 8 years of being opposition against a group that had deceived the country and largely had won the country's heart. I'm not underrating the level of communication needed for 2024, but in 2024, the bigger battle ahead of us is not so much the communication, but how to stop the stealing, how to stop the plan to steal the vote, how to stop the plan to corrupt our agent, how to stop the plan to use violence and what you call lack of security to do what they got to do, how to use the electoral commission to do shenanigans, how to use the justice system to do shenanigans. So these things require much more strategy, a lot more quiet operation, rather than say plain being on radio station and TV station. So a lot of that has to be done.
You are also part of those with the belief that there's truly this habit of stealing elections, and now you are faced with an opponent that says that we are not going to hand power over to the opposition or the NDC.
Absolutely.
You've heard the president several times. He said he will do his best possible to make sure that Bawumia wins the 2024 elections. He will use whatever means within his powers to make that happen. He has said it concurrently, I mean several times, I beg your pardon, that he was not going to relinquish in the event that, I don't know whether in the event NDC wins or not, but he will do whatever it takes. A number of people, we've heard Lord Kome, we've heard even the Agric Minister, they've all made some of these comments. As a General Secretary, it doesn't send any shivers into your spine?
Once you know who they are, you are not surprised. And sometimes I think the problem with the NDC is that a lot of our people do not know who they are. They don't know what their DNA is. And that's why often when I even see part of our people who are making compromises with them, it shocks me how anyone that belongs to NDC can even come down to the level of making compromises.
They say they are brothers and sisters.
This plague, these people who absolutely do not love the country, they love themselves. These people who every opportunity they have, what they want to do is to destroy their opponents. And because for them it's about taking hold of this country. They've constantly had this DNA that believes that this country is their personal property, and anybody who opposes them they must destroy. Not because they have any good plan for the country, but they just want to take the country, pillage it, render it totally down, like what they've done currently. Now, so if you know who they are, you clearly must believe when they say that they will do anything possible to stay in power. Now, if you know that's what they plan to do, you clearly must be ahead of them in terms of the game. That's one of the calls we are going to be making tomorrow, calling on every single, not just member of the NDC, but all Ghanaians who truly love this country to be ready to work extra hard to make sure that nothing is not done. Everything must be done to make sure that we stop them, because they will do anything to stay in power. Everything they've got to do. If they've got to kill, they will kill, and don't put it past them. 8 people died in 2020 just because a desperate president needed to stay in power. 8 people died, he had no problem. A year before then, We had a by-election in West Ogun. You see exactly what they did. They sent what you call tax, wearing national security garment, and they were ready to do anything. That is who they are. I mean, these are the people who in 2008, even in the final moment in the strong room, had no problem wanting to steal the election, changing the result. In fact, Nana Akufo-Addo's voice was, in fact, not his voice, but his close collaborators, their voices were heard on radio saying that they were prepared to put dead bodies in water bodies in order to stay in power. So that is who they've always been. These people care only about themselves. So the rest of Ghana must appreciate their DNA and therefore must be prepared to stop at nothing until this plague absolutely is taken out of power. Nana Akufo-Addo, Bawumia, and the plague that they represent must not just lose power, but they must be penalized, punished severely, in order to send a message to the rest of the country, including NDC, that never should we have any group that would destroy our country the way we have seen. Never should we have a group that would destroy and bring this country down the way we have seen done by Nana Akufo-Addo and Bawumia. That's why I get shocked when anyone even expresses any kind of sympathy for this plague that the NPP represents. They must go and they must be punished.
So, I mean, tomorrow we are having the official launch of the campaigns. Take us through what will be happening tomorrow, and then immediately after this particular launch, what will be the next steps? Because as a party secretary, you are also in charge of campaigns and the strategies. What will be after this particular event? And let's start from tomorrow's event.
All right. So first and foremost, tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the official launch of the campaign. Effectively, you use that as a day to be able to, tell the country what the next 4 months are going to be in terms of our movement. We obviously will expect the high point of the day being, should I call it, the formal address by our flag bearer, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. We would also have high-level speeches that are coming from top members of the party, including the running mate of the party, the national chairman, myself, the general secretary, and the other key members of the party would speak as well. We use the opportunity to literally give marching orders to our various regions, through the regions down to the constituencies, all the way down to the polling stations. So effectively, right after tomorrow, the plan is for us to take what should I call it, blueprints we come across. We bring down from the national level. To start affecting the movement through the regions. We will also, after tomorrow, define should I call it, the trajectory of the flag bearer, that of the running mate, and the various teams that are going to be moving. This year in particular, we want the campaign to be one that will be very retail as much as possible. So you will not be seeing what we do tomorrow. You are not going to see a replication of that after this. We are not intending this campaign to be one that is just a rally of bringing your supporters and talking to them. No, we want it to be much more community oriented, going down to constituencies, but not in terms of doing rallies, but getting down to communities, getting down to the people and having conversations, being able to talk to them, listen to them in order to know exactly the things that are dear to them and let them know what our plans are.
So we no longer will have the opportunity over mammoth rallies organized at various... but we've seen in some circumstances as the flag bearer, tours the entire country, meeting up with various groupings and other. They have town hall meetings, they have interactions within community debates. Will we see some of these things rather than the mammoth rallies?
Because the mammoth rallies are beautiful. There are ways in which you charge your people. If I can tell you that even for this particular launch that we were doing, we actually had a very strong debate. We nearly were going to be doing an indoor program rather than an outdoor program.
I see.
Because we wanted, we were thinking indoor largely because we wanted the messages to be able to reach the country from a certain perspective. Sometimes outdoor doesn't allow messages to go out too clearly, because sometimes the emotions, when you hear the chobo here and the crowd is shouting, if you're not careful, the messages don't flow. In fact, that's what happened to Napo in Kumasi, and he started talking rubbish because when he saw the crowd, he totally got confused and started talking rubbish. So but tomorrow we're trying to encourage as many of the speakers as possible to keep in mind that it great emotions when you see the supporters. It's beautiful, it's great, but our messages have to be properly directed, because we are not just talking to the crowd that is going to be gathered tomorrow. We are talking to the country and to even people who are beyond the country. So we have to keep that in mind. So yes, we'll be doing a lot more of a retail campaigning, where the flag bearer, the running mates, and different people who are moving are directly reaching communities, trying to talk to the people, finding out what the issues are, and going straight to those nooks and crannies.
Okay, so let's do an autopsy of your campaign team, national campaign, because the selection became something of something strange to people. Why members of parliament were lost? I think apart from the minority leader, you didn't include members of parliament who you think that they are influential in one way or the other. Was that to give them the freedom to concentrate on their campaigns, like we are hearing from some communicators?
All right, yeah, that should be, because remember, I've been a member of parliament myself, and I would have been totally surprised if somebody took me away from my constituency and made me a part of a national campaign team. I mean, I would not have understood that. In fact, the only campaign team I want to belong to as an MP is that of my constituency, leading that campaign team.
So that should be your focus.
That should be your focus. You also to make sure you deliver that constituency, help both the parliamentary and the presidential. That should really what it.
But what about somebody who thinks that can play a utility role? I mean, and you decide to say that okay, he should continue. I mean, focus on his constituency. Is that your business?
It is my business, because your job is to make sure you deliver your constituency. If you are no more interested in your constituency, leave the parliament and come to the national. We can use you at the national level. But as far as this particular campaign is concerned, the most important job of an MP is to make sure you deliver your constituency. That's why on the D-Day of the elections, if you are an MP and you leave your constituency and come to Accra, maybe to come and help the general secretary for the collation of results, I will not be happy with you. I want you to make sure you deliver your results, get it totally
amplify the
down.
numbers.
Absolutely. After you have gotten your full numbers, both parliamentary and presidential, you can now leave and come and join me maybe in Accra for us to help what we can do nationally. So that must always be the spirit. Now, you can appreciate why we did what we did, because the national requires people who are not going to be bogged down by constituency assignment. Then they are able to concentrate fully to helping to plan at the national level. So different MPs are helping their constituency. We group them together through the regions to the national level. So that really was the strategy. Yeah.
Very well. We're still spending some time with the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress. Now let's now examine some of the policies we are hearing your party talk about. Now the NPP consistently indicate that. I just saw somebody throw a question to me that I should ask you to explain 24-hour economy. A lot of people have actually gone through this explanation, but it appears, is it probably some people are pretending not to know about it or understand it?
Yeah, you cannot wake a person who pretends to be asleep. He's pretending to be asleep. So no matter, even when you bring a trumpet and you're blowing in the room, he's not going to wake up.
Baumia says
so
that
some of these
policy is
people,
completely empty.
Baumia doesn't even have the capacity to understand the policy.
This is an economic PhD.
You know, not everything that glitters is gold. You understand? I mean, Baumia's case, don't get me started on Baumia.
But that's your main opponent. He is actually poo-pooing some of the policies that you have outlined.
Yeah, but then for somebody who has presided over the most calamitous management of our economy, somebody under whose watch, I mean, this economy has become a junk economy. Somebody under whose watch the city has absolutely collapsed. Somebody under whose watch growth in our economy reached an all-time low, which has never happened from 1992 all the way to 2016 when we handed over. Somebody who absolutely has presided over the suffering and the economic collapse that we see today. The last person to even dare open his mouth to talk about economy is Baumia. The last person. But unfortunately, the biggest problem of Baumia is not the fact that he's what you call an economic disaster. His biggest problem is that he's absolutely a moral catastrophe. He has absolutely...
You don't mean it?
Absolutely. It's a total moral catastrophe. I can tell you, his economic disaster is a problem because that's what we've seen. The far worse than his disaster economically is the fact that morally this guy simply has no shame. This person has no credibility. This guy has no problem lying. This guy will consistently lie. And the worst part is he laughs. You see him laughing. It just
belly laugh.
It just tells you the level of this guy is just unconscionable. He has no conscience, because it's only somebody without conscience who will continue to laugh when the whole country know you are such a liar. I will not be laughing. I would absolutely be very serious when everybody calls me a liar. But no, he laughs. He laughs because he doesn't care. Now, so we're talking about somebody who is what you call a toxic mix of being an economic disaster and a moral catastrophe. And this person wants to become the ruler, the leader of this country. God have mercy on Ghana. Baumia, everything must be done to make sure that gentleman goes nowhere near the seats of leadership of our country. It will be a total collapse of our country. Total collapse.
24 hours.
So for him to say he doesn't understand the 24-hour economy, it's not surprising. He obviously will pretend he doesn't understand it. 24-hour economy is not anything that is difficult to appreciate. Every economy is simply what you do at Radio Tamale here. You are running your economy. So as this station, is able to, as it will, reach out to many more people, as you get a lot more sponsorship, as you get a lot more people who are supporting you, you are growing, and on the back of that, you are able to employ many more people. Now, the job of every manager of an economy is to create systems that will allow people to be able to grow. So, for example, if you are producing something to the point of, let's say, 100, if I can help you to start producing 200, that's a growth that is coming. Now, in the past, things are allowed to just happen on their own. But we are talking about a system that will use what you call policy to be able to make it better. So policies like taxation, policies like what you call using the power system, the tariff system in power to be able to encourage people to produce. That is how you do it. And in our case in particular, we've realized also that government is the biggest spender in every economy. Through the procurement system of government, if a government is minded to grow an economy, it can be done. For example, your radio station here, if, for example, the people who are in power decide that we want to, let's say, route our sponsorship, our announcement, all our advertisement through you, that's growth that comes to you. That is policy driven. And so we can use what you call the procurement system that government has to deliberately target industries, target production units that will allow them to have the kind of demand that will allow them to produce more. So it's nothing strange. Other countries that have done it have shown clearly that this 24-hour economy is actually a game changer. It actually can bring about what you call greater production. It can bring about greater employment. It can bring about greater economic growth. So for anybody pretending he doesn't know what it is simply people who have decided that, listen, no matter what you do, I refuse to understand because I think what you are doing is going to cost me to lose an election. So I think we should leave them and concentrate on those who can have the greater benefits.
Looking at the level of hunger within the NDC, the young people who have been out of jobs for so many years, for about close to 8 years. You are getting into power if the people of Ghana gives you the opportunity. And you are talking about limiting the size of your government. How would you be able to, at least with the gamut of following you have, who are supporting the campaign actively, how would you be able to settle them?
But between you and I, how many people really can be employed in any place? So let's say, for example, in terms of ministers, if at the moment, let's say NPP has about, let's say, 90, and John Mahama says, we are going to reduce you to 60, that's about 30 people who are not going to be ministers. And that obviously cannot be the whole of the NDC, because how many people in NDC really can be ministers anywhere? How many people, for example, can be employed in direct ministerial position or other government position? The aim is to make sure that you are expanding the totality of the economy. That creates opportunity for your people to be able to work in different places, and that actually is something that is not beyond achievement. If, for example, you bring about this 24-hour economy that we're talking about, that creates job opportunities. I mean, let's say industries that at the moment are employing, let's say 1,000 people. As a result of it, they are now able to move up to 1,002, 1,003, 1,005. That's opportunity that you are creating for your people. The same thing you can do across different, shall I call it, parts of this government architecture, and also of the private sector, and so on. So that should be our concentration.
Well, I mean, we see how that goes, and let's talk about another one, because I know you have to take a rest so that you can
prepare for tomorrow.
For tomorrow. But there are some other aspects that I thought they are very imperative that we look at, especially looking about. I mean, you are a former member of parliament. The issue of ex gratia. What are your thoughts? Because the NDC is promising something around the ex gratia, scrapping it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, no, I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of the noise that is made about ex gratia, if you go into it properly, I would say about 80% of that amount of money that people call ex gratia often is simply salaries that were supposed to have been paid. They are not paid until getting to the end of the mandate. So, for example, if you are an MP or even as a minister, you come into office, let's say January of 2025, there's supposed to be what you call a salary structure that is to take care of you for the next 4 years. But unfortunately, what happens is that instead of deciding on that salary structure right from the beginning, we have had a convention of waiting until the end of the 4 year in order to now do that salary structure, and then therefore you have to now do what you call you work it backward from 4 years ago and pay. I would say about 80% of that ex gratia is actually salaries that are due people who have worked. Now, so the real part, which is supposed to be the ex gratia that people complain about, it's not exactly that much, but it is important for us to send a tone to the country that, listen, we are not in public office to literally milk the state. So NDC is saying that, listen, we've heard a concern of people. The concern has been that, listen, government MPs and people who are working in government are taking too much ex gratia. We say, why not? We would actually look at that and remove the ex gratia.
Okay.
That means that it should be. We should not be too difficult for us to do as a country, because, as I said, it's not something that cannot be achieved. I mean, NDC, for example, we showed quite a lot of that even when we were in office, where ministers, for example, made sacrifices in terms of their salary, and not like the kind of shenanigan NPP does to deceive people. We basically did it consistently and use the proceeds of that, for example, to be able to build a cheap compound across the country. So making such an effort as a way of understanding where this economy is at the moment, I don't think it's too much to ask.
I just received a question. It's very important on the issue of the voting, the elections. I mean, there's this particular bigger problem in the during the elections on the voting day, where your polling agents are seriously compromised, and then they end up not collating the results properly. What are some of the measures you've put in place to address these things? Because people may be, for whatever noise they make out there, with all the, serious campaigning processes, at the end of the day, they go to the polling center through some chicaneries. People are taken off or are taken aback by certain eventualities. What are some of the measures you are putting in place to make sure that their votes indeed count? Not the form of my vote can count or should count, but this time around to make sure that their votes are really considered valid.
Okay, I would say that I won't be able to disclose all of them.
As
I told you earlier, upon taking office, it didn't take me long to realize that the real job that needs to be done in this particular election is not the communication, but is the stopping of the steal. And so that, I would say, is number one priority. Now, so every step of the way, that is what the focus is. And that often is something you do through quiet operation. You do it through proper training. You do it through making sure you are getting the right people. You're making sure you are not getting people who will be compromised. So it's normal. Especially in parts where NPP has been strong, the tendency has been to try very hard to throw money at people. In fact, some of the people who we even thought were our own members, we actually know our members at all, but they were members of the NPP pretending to be on our side. So really, every step of the way, we need to ensure that that does not happen anymore. You're making sure those who are there are truly your members. And if they are truly your members, they also will place the party and the country ahead of their personal pockets. You know, unfortunately, you know, as I told you about the plague that the NPP represents, the days of Rawlings, it was impossible to hear about NDC people being capable of being compromised. But unfortunately, when NPP took over power in this country, after 8 years of Kufuor, the moral fiber of this country started dropping considerably. Now, when we thought Kufuor was terrible, what we've had over the last 8 years in the combination of what I call the two degenerates that have taken over this country, in Nana Akufo-Addo and Bawumia, the worst leaders that you can ever have in a country. You're talking about a further drop as far as the moral fiber of the country is concerned.